Imagine standing in the desert in 2500 BC in front of you, a stone block weighing as much as 60 cars. No cranes, no trucks, no wheels that work in sand. And somehow, in a few decades, over 2 million of these blocks end up stacked into a shape so precise that modern architects still study it. So here's the real question. Not how heavy were the stones, but how did people with no iron tools, no pulleys strong enough for the job, and no engines move something a modern forklift would struggle with, and do it tens of thousands of times without stopping? For centuries, the answer people gave was simple: slaves, whips, brute force. That story felt satisfying, cruel, but understandable. Except, it's wrong. Archaeologists found the workers' village near Giza, bakeries, beer breweries, medical care for broken bones. These weren't slaves being worked to death. They were fed better than most Egyptian farmers. So if it wasn't whips and misery, what was it? Here's where it gets strange. In 2014, physicists at the University of Amsterdam ran an experiment. They dragged heavy sleds across sand, dry sand first. It barely moved. Then they wetted the sand just slightly. The friction dropped by half. The sled that needed dozens of people suddenly needed far fewer. And then someone remembered something odd: a 4,000-year-old tomb painting, a worker standing at the front of a giant sledge pouring water onto the sand. For decades, people assumed he was just performing a ritual. Turns out, he might have been doing physics. That's one piece, but water alone doesn't explain everything. Some of these blocks weren't dragged across flat desert. They were lifted, vertically, to build structures over 480 feet tall. That's taller than a 40-story building, built without a single crane. So now the mystery deepens. How do you lift a 2.5-ton block that high by hand? The old theory was a giant straight ramp running up one side. Simple, except when engineers modeled it, the ramp would have needed more material than the pyramid itself. That doesn't add up. It would have taken longer to build the ramp than the monument. But that's only part of the story. In 2018, a French archaeologist named Pierre Tallet found something buried near the Red Sea: the diary of a real construction supervisor named Merrier. Not a myth, not a guess. An actual logbook, written in his own hand, describing daily stone transport by boat down the Nile. This wasn't legend, this was a receipt, and this is where things get weird. In 2022, French and Egyptian researchers used satellite imaging and sediment analysis. They found something the desert had been hiding for thousands of years: an ancient branch of the Nile, now dried up, running right past the pyramid site. Ancient Egypt wasn't a desert quarry story. It was a river logistics story. Stones didn't just get dragged, they floated. Think about that for a second. We imagine ancient people brute forcing stone across sand with pure muscle. The real picture is smarter than that. It's an entire river transport network, timed with seasonal floods, engineered channels, and internal harbors built specifically to dock stone-loaded barges next to the build site. That would be impressive enough on its own. Except there's another layer. Even with water transport solving the horizontal problem, the vertical lift problem remained. How do you get a multi-ton block up hundreds of feet? In 2023, researchers led by Wojciech Fitzner proposed something that finally connects the dots. Not one giant ramp, but an internal spiral ramp built inside the pyramid structure itself as it rose, using something engineers instantly recognized: a counterweight system. A massive stone block acting like a weight on the opposite side of a lever, using leverage most people assume wasn't invented yet. Here's the unsettling part. This isn't ancient superstition or mystical secret knowledge. It's the same basic principle used in modern construction cranes. Leverage, water reduction of friction, transport via waterway instead of overland hauling. These aren't magic tricks. They're engineering solutions that any modern civil engineer would recognize instantly. So why does the aliens built it theory still spread? Because we underestimate ancient humans by default. We assume advanced problem solving requires advanced technology. But intelligence isn't about having tools. It's about understanding forces, friction, leverage, buoyancy, and organizing thousands of people around a shared, incredibly precise plan. And this is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. These builders didn't have calculators, no computer modeling, no steel, yet the base of the Great Pyramid is level to within just 2.1 centimeters across a 13-acre footprint. Modern construction with laser levels sometimes doesn't hit that kind of precision. That's not luck, that's mastery. Here's the bigger stake behind all of this. It's not really about how they moved rocks, it's about what humans are capable of when they combine patience, observation, and cooperation. Without any of the tools we consider necessary today, we tend to measure progress by how much technology we have. But the pyramids are proof that raw human ingenuity, organized at scale, can outperform expectations by thousands of years. Somewhere in ancient Egypt, a person watched water soak into sand and realized it made dragging easier. Someone else watched a lever move weight and thought, what if we build this into the wall itself? No processors, no electricity, just relentless observation of the physical world, and the discipline to apply it at a scale of 2 million blocks. So next time you see a "How did ancient humans do this" headline, followed by a claim about aliens, remember this. It's not that ancient people had impossible help. It's that we've been underestimating ordinary human intelligence the entire time. And that might be the most unsettling revelation of all. The smartest engineering in human history might not have come from advanced tools. It might have come from people simply paying closer attention to the world than we do today. Think about that for a second because it goes further than pyramids. We live surrounded by sensors, apps, and instant answers. If we want to know the weather, we check a screen. If we want to know which way is north, we check a compass on our phone. Ancient builders didn't have that luxury, so they built a different kind of technology instead, the technology of noticing. They watched the Nile flood every single year at almost the exact same time, and instead of fearing it, they mapped it. They knew which months the water would rise, which channels would fill, and how to time an entire transport operation around a river's mood. That's not guesswork. That's decades, maybe centuries of passed down observation, refined generation after generation like a science handed down instead of written down. And here's the twist that makes this even stranger. Some of that knowledge wasn't recorded in books at all. It lived in practice, in muscle memory, in fathers teaching sons how a rope behaves under tension, how wet sand feels different under bare feet, how a slightly wrong angle on a lever can waste an entire day's labor. This was oral, physical, inherited engineering, a curriculum with no classroom. Now, compare that to us. We can Google how to build a pyramid in less than a second. We have access to more raw information than any pharaoh could have imagined. And yet, how many of us could organize 100,000 people, coordinate seasonal logistics, and hit millimeter level precision using nothing but ropes, wood, copper tools, and teamwork? That's the uncomfortable question hiding underneath this whole mystery. We didn't get smarter than ancient humans, we just got more assisted. Somewhere between them and us, humanity traded deep observation for fast access. We know more facts. But do we understand the physical world the way they did? Here's one more layer, and it might be the most human part of this entire story. Merer, that supervisor whose diary was found near the Red Sea, wasn't a mythical genius. He was a working man doing his job, writing about food rations, boat schedules, and tired crews. He wasn't thinking about being remembered 4,000 years later. He was just trying to get the job done efficiently. And maybe that's the real secret behind the pyramids. It wasn't one genius with a hidden blueprint. It was thousands of ordinary people, each mastering a small physical truth about the world, then combining that knowledge into something that would outlast every empire that came after it. So the next time you look at something impossible from the ancient world, don't ask what secret technology they had. Ask a better question. What did they understand about the world that we've simply stopped paying attention to? Because maybe the real ancient mystery isn't how they moved the stones. Maybe it's how much we've forgotten to look closely at anything at all.